Okay, so is Airbnb dying? You can see it on this side of the screen. Yes, this is a Word document, or actually a Google Doc I have prepared. So I'm gonna talk about this, and I'm gonna ask you these questions again. Is Airbnb dying? Okay, and I'm gonna go over, some research that I've done for you. But this is basically my 10,000 hours of work in this industry, the hospitality, as an educator. I've been working with many different type of people, from property owners to guests, and also institutions and players into this travel hospitality industry. So let's start with a bit of history. Airbnb. Okay, what is Airbnb? Airbnb is a company that was started by the founders, Brian Chesky. Let's remember this name. And grew from just nothing. It was from the floor of their apartments, the air bed and breakfast, from 2,500 listings in the early stage to right now. We are talking about 7 million people putting their place to rent in over 190 countries. Okay, so that's something that tells you how big this movement has been, how big this company has been. Just, if we look at top venture firms, they decided to invest, and we are talking about big names: Henderson, Fund and Sequoia Capital, and the valuation company actually, from $2 billion to today 31, actually $30 billion. Because of the pandemic, they just dropped 1 billion. You say just, well, what I want to say is that they cover their initial devaluation from the pandemic, which was massive, massive layoff. And in accordance with the recent news in the New York Times in July, and I'm going to share with you this article because I think it's relevant. You need to see it, not just for me to tell you, okay? So you can see here in this Google Docs, which, by the way, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to share the link if you put 100 likes on YouTube or Facebook. So this is the article on the New York Times that basically says the pandemic is straining Airbnb, okay? And you can read about it. I'm going to share this link. But my point is basically that according to the New York Times, which is a reputable font, Airbnb during the pandemic was about to die, okay? So let's go back to talk me and you. And please let me know, is Airbnb dying in your opinion? Comment in the chat, in the comment, whatever you find the space to express yourself, and let me know who you are, where you're from, and why you're here. This is basically for my point of view. It's me sharing my painful experience that right now I've been going through the pandemic. A lot of struggle and suffering for Mondosol as well, just because we were deeply involved into Airbnb business. We actually partnered with them, and we actually had like 95% of our business through them. And so when the pandemic hit, that was very painful. So I'm telling you this just to let you know that Airbnb was about to die. And we are talking about a few months ago. And they had to borrow massive amount of money, actually $2 billion, just to stay alive. Okay. And Airbnb was supposed to bring the worlds close together and live like a locals, and everyone's belong. Okay. The people traveling and the people making extra cash with their spare room. Yeah, great. Last year, Airbnb, like I said, was supposed to be $30 billion. Also mentioned by one of the great authority I'm going to mention in today's video and in this article that I'm going to also publish it in our blog in mondosol.com. So you see it. This was before the pandemic. So what happened after? In 2020, unfortunately, something called COVID-19, which is a virus that came out from China, just approached Europe first and then hit very hard also the US. So how does a travel company manage when there are few people traveling or almost nothing? I heard Brian Chesky saying in 8 weeks, they have destroyed the business they built up in 8 years. Okay, they basically wiped out all their revenues during the pandemic, and they were finally managed to recover some of their business in June. Okay, so what Airbnb has done to not die right away in March 2020 this year? Well, they cut back we are talking about like 45% of their employees and most of their freelancers. We are talking about major firing of 4,500 people. And yes, I can mention there is also an article I want to show with you, and that's how you know Brian Chesky, which is the founder, one of the founder of Airbnb, shows some empathy. Is coming from mom and dad working as a social assistant in New York. So I believe Brian Chesky is a good person, but when you need to fire someone else, they are not gonna be happy anyway. And this idea of everyone's belong, even in a company, being like a family, that wasn't easy for Brian Chesky. So I want to share with you the message of Brian Chesky also to the host, to the community that he built up. As a matter of fact, Brian Chesky was a host himself, like I mentioned before. He was someone that started with his partner Joe Gabbia, okay, in the floor of his apartment, laying down this air mattress and inflating, and then asking, is there someone crazy out there who wants to come and live in our living room and sleep on the floor on an air mattress and get a bagel that I'm gonna buy from the bakery down the corner. So crazy enough, here we go. Brian Chesky talking to the host community of Airbnb directly from his website, a message that Brian Chesky, he was almost crying. This is from his living room. Okay, I'm just gonna show you a little bit so that you can see it. But also there is an article, and the point here is that Brian Chesky was about to cry, and this was devastating for him because he had to say. Yeah, okay. So I will invite you to go and watch the full video. Right now, my point is this. He had to announce something tremendous, something very hard, for the whole community of hosts. And that was that no matter what, without even really consulting everyone, including me, Mondosol, the host, the professional host, as well as the mom and pop, he decided to delete, to cancel all reservation during the pandemic. And even though you as a host might have decided to have a strict cancellation policy and you wanted to get some money out of it, even if there was a cancellation, boom, that was gone. Because Airbnb set the rules and you were just one of their guests, even though you were a host, but you're still were not controlling Airbnb. And that was about the investors of Airbnb deciding the path. And today I would say they are even stepping one foot forward, and that's to decide that they want to put all the cost of Airbnb into the shoulder of already hurted host. Okay, and so I'm gonna refer to more and more people about this basic question that I'm gonna ask you again. Do you think Airbnb is about to die, or is there something big happening that they're not telling us that we don't know right now? So where are you going to be when this thing is happening? Let's say Airbnb is dying. As a matter of fact, your business might be affected 100%. So what are you going to do? Where are you going to be? So with that being said, I also want to mention that Airbnb is just one of the OTA, of course, and there are so many others as well. But like Airbnb, everyone follow and they fire so many people. We are talking about major firing. TUI, which is the tour operator where the co-founder of Mondosol worked, they fire, I think, 7,000 to 8,000 people. And then we had Expedia, I think it was 20 to 30,000 people. And Booking.com, I think they're about to announce another major layoff, but you get the point. The boat, the Titanic, is sinking. Are you sinking with them? I think if you are a professional host, a property manager, a property owner that is in this, it's been there, it's done that for several years, you've been hit so damn hard. Okay, if that's you, I feel you, because for me, this has been so depressing to see how the industry was going down the toilet, and how people were canceling their trips. So from hero to zero, literally. That's probably your story as well. And I feel the pain. I feel the pain of all these people as well. The waitress, the clerk, the receptionist, the people serving millions and millions of people, an industry that was supposed to reach a $550 billion market value, millions and millions of people now home without a job, maybe government assistance, and without hope of going back anytime soon. Okay. And I'm going to share, some of the voices out there, expert industry. I was just talking with our marketing genius, and he's a millennial, so he has a very optimistic view. And I really like the optimism that everyone should have, even during, and actually, I would say, even more during the hard moment. You should always have a positive mentality, because if not, only the worst can happen. So he was telling me that United States, with the President Trump to win the election on the 3rd of November, he wants to announce the vaccine, and he wants to push it for people to, test it. I even hear someone say, well, we are not rabbits. We are not in a lab. We don't want to be, testing something that has not been tested enough. A vaccine can even hurt people. And that's to prevent people to get, again, the second wave of the pandemic, which is happening right now. The numbers are not lying. If you are in Europe or in US or any other countries in the world, and you can see the winter is coming, the cold, people are staying in environment closed more and more, public places, schools, and office and shops, and so people are getting sick. 10,000 sick people every day in Italy. It's my country, so I know that. And lockdown announced and already effective in the United Kingdom and as well in the United States. So President Trump wants to announce the vaccine to be, early adopted by policemen, by teachers, and also wants to push it on the population. And then the other thing, to not let the whole economy explode, he wants to announce the second stimulus, the second plan on government assistance to help all these millions of people without a job, locked down with their hands in the chair, with no hope. And, that will probably push vaccine and the money coming from the governments, put it in the people's pocket to travel again. Because, like he said, millennials are eager and hungry to travel and discover the world. Even though they might have a little money in their pocket, I can see it in myself, Mexico, for example, and Tulum, or I've seen it in Tuscany, in Italy. So places that are not exactly the cheapest place in the world. I would say they're actually more middle class, hipster, and this posh. But with that being said, people are so willing to travel more and more. And with this, I want to hand up. I really need to wrap this up. Is Airbnb dying? I asked top industry experts, and from Brian Chesky said, the company now has been promoting sign of recovery, is growing. June was like one of the best months ever, and people are just changing their habits. They're traveling short distance instead of long distance. Great virtual experiences. Well, they launched back in the pandemic. They are also taking off. And then Chris Martin, University of New South Wales, and from also the research center, he is talking about Airbnb as a company that has changed not only the travel industry but also the housing and rental markets. More and more people now are considering to rent their space for medium long term, and there is this phenomenon called the nomad travelers. So people working in other countries, not just traveling for leisure, but there is this surge. And Stephen Coleman as well, Airbnb host, he is running an Airbnb business management company, a property management, and he said the whole industry has fallen through. Like I said, the Titanic. And even many hosts are pulling out of Airbnb as a platform, finding cheaper long-term rentals platforms. And I want to mention Mondosol. And, I just invite you to go over to travel.mondosol.com to discover the new revolutionary method for you to make most of the money and get this direct bookings wave that it's more and more, trending. The host and the guests, they want to meet together. So with that being said, I can also mention Susan Wildom, Airbnb country managers, from Australia and New Zealand. And she said the whole industry has fallen through, okay? The whole industry has basically been hurt. But if we're talking about short-term rental companies, that they have urgent support, Airbnb, with the help as well of the federal government, created this fund to support the Superhost and some other hosts to recover, to get some liquidity, okay, to get some mortgage, so mortgage help, I mean, so they did not lose their homes that they were renting in Airbnb. That's probably not good enough, but that was Airbnb came out. And what do you think about it? And this, she thinks, will ultimately help to recover. Now, Travis Lipsus, I hope I pronounced correct, real estate agent in Biden Bay. We're talking, I think, again about Australia. So he says that he thinks Airbnb hosts, they basically are turning into cheaper long-term rental platform. And I was just reading news. Europe is trying to fight against the Airbnb, at least on this digital nomads phenomenon. So medium and long-term rental, and a lot of people, they started to hate Airbnb. I don't know what about you personally. Do you think Airbnb is a company that is evil, is doing something bad to you personally? I would like to really know. Please comment down below. So they are going to be pretty f up. I'm not gonna say the whole word, but you understand. And also, I'm gonna mention some of my best friends in the industry and very top industry leader, and I'm gonna close this up. And Gianpaolo Vairo, the creator of Host B2B, which is a big event in the vacation rental industry, he thinks that Airbnb is not dying, is not dead yet, but like a lot of other OTAs, they are really like into the incubation stage. Now they are, yes, they are really suffering. VRBO, he told me that is actually the only one growing because Expedia is doing very badly. Airbnb Booking and Expedia, they are cutting thousands of people. This, we said it. So I think this is gonna be maybe just about time. And you can see also tour operator Thomas Cook, and I mentioned TUI, Thompson, they have bankrupt, some of them, or they are laying off millions of people. And might be Amazon coming out with Amazon Experience, the one that buy one of these company, maybe Airbnb. What do you think about it? Is Amazon, buying Airbnb? And then one of the journalists I estimate the most that interviewed me personally, Riccardo Stagnanò from the number one newspaper in Italy, Repubblica, he thinks that Airbnb does not die. Okay, is the vaccine, announced by Trump, as well as the new stimulus check. He thinks that this will help the travel industry to come back tomorrow. He also think that altogether this summer Airbnb has got some business back, but it's not gonna be the next months or the next 6 months where this industry recover completely. It might take 1-2 years more, and this might not really impact the IPO, the quotation of Airbnb going public into Wall Street. They just lost like a little bit less than $1 billion. It's a lot of money, huh? And then the last one, Luca De Giglio, like a futurist guy, and he's already involved into his project called Trips Community, to make host and guest work together. So I invite you to watch his video on YouTube where he talks about the future of hospitality. And I just want to say thank you very much for watching. This has been a great pleasure.